Have everybody present here, but since we're coming back from a break, I'd like to do a roll call once again at each of the locations. Can we start at the San Diego location? Dr. Corradino, are you present?
Yes, we are present. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Los Angeles, do we have Hildegard Aguinaldo?
Present at the same location we started.
Thank you. Jamie Zamora?
Yes, Los Angeles location.
Thank you. Jeannie Kang?
Same location.
Thank you. Francisco Shi?
Yes, I'm here.
Kitman Chan?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, we have quorum, and we can proceed. On to comment number 2, I believe. Part 2 of comment 2.
Okay. We're reviewing. We're back, folks, on comment number 2. It's the second portion of Dr. Gibbons' comment number 2, and it states, further Dr. Gibbons comments, we believe that so long as any improvements to an institution's curriculum leaves the institution fully in compliance with California regulations, no further review by CAB is necessary. Conversation with prior CAB staff suggested that CAB is considering reviewing virtually all changes to curriculum. This would be burdensome and result in making it harder for institutions to make positive changes to their program of study. Staff proposes the response to this comment to reject this comment in order to protect the public and to ensure that California standards apply to all acupuncture training programs. It is necessary to require our true training programs submit changes to their coursework as defined in above to the board.
Any comments from the board members?
I agree with Dr. Gibbons' comments with the exception of the part that says no further review by CAB is necessary. I'm not, actually, you know what, I'm not even sure if I disagree with that portion. What's the difference here between accepting and rejecting that comment? Because it doesn't propose it was just like a comment, a point of awareness.
So I think that the comment is suggesting that the board doesn't approve any or doesn't need to review the curriculum if changes are made. So the staff is suggesting to reject that comment and not make changes to the proposed text because the board feels that any changes to the curriculum should be reviewed by the board to ensure public safety and ensure that the standards set for California acupuncture schools is continually met.
And this goes back to our previous discussions about the changes being out of compliance with 1399, leaving it up to the school to decide what keeps them in and out of compliance and how that's not their responsibility. So because we already discussed this, I'm comfortable with rejecting.
Okay.
Okay.
So I motion to accept the staff's recommended response as it relates to this comment.
Thank you, Jamie.
Ms. Hildy, I second.
Thank you, Hildy. Public comment? No comments in Sacramento.
No comments in LA.
Is there a comment in San Diego?
No comments, we're good.
Vote, please.
Okay. The motion is made by Jamie is to approve staff's recommended comment. Algonado?
Yes.
Zamora?
Yes.
Chan?
Yes.
Corradino?
Yeah.
Francisco Shi?
Yes,
Jeannie Kang? I'm sorry, Jeannie?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 6-0. All right. Dr. Gibbons' third comment in his letter sent to us May 25th. Finally, Dr. Gibbons comments He cautions CAB regarding attempting to ensure that licensed acupuncturists continue to meet the same educational training and clinical experience standards as he's referencing SB 1246 ISR.PDF, which was the name of the file. It is hoped that CAB staff and commissioners will create an environment where an institution may meet or exceed the standards as set out in regulation. Staff is proposing to reject this comment. The board is setting minimal standards for approved training program curriculum, not making the program exceed the standards as proposed. Exceeding these standards remains at the program's discretion.
Any comment from the board members?
Martha, Ben, can you give us an example of this, or just give us a little more detail, and what's being discussed?
I'm sorry, could you say that again, Jamie? It was
Yeah,
very muffled.
provide us an example, or give us more detail as to what this means.
Certainly. So ultimately, what the board does in establishing this curriculum is establish a minimum level of competency that will protect the public, and it does it through these requirements of curriculum. I believe Dr. Given was concerned that the board would be holding licensees to a higher standard than what our regulations state, and our regulations simply set the minimum standard. So if, for example, they wanted to offer college level chemistry and college level organic chemistry as a prerequisite to entering their training program, improved training program is more than welcome to do that. That will ensure that they have the full hard science background, as opposed to right now they are meeting the requirement by offering, some schools are meeting the requirement by offering their own chemistry course that tailors it more to the practice of acupuncture, and does not have, for example, the full 12 units that may be required in chemistry 1 and 2 that you would see at a baccalaureate level program, and then perhaps even organic chemistry 1 and 2. So that could be at a semester school up to 16 units. Currently, a lot of these courses are around the 4-unit range. So we would not, as the board, not hinder a school from requiring that as a prerequisite or requiring that the students complete that in their program. We are just establishing the minimum hours required.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments or questions from the board members?
No, none here, Ben.
Thank you, Doctor.
Ben from LA.
Public comment? Oh yeah, we have to have a motion first. Anybody care to make a motion on this comment?
Make a motion for, accept the staff proposed, reject this, the comment.
Thank you, Kitman. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Cordino.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Cordino. And now for public comment. I see no public comment in Sacramento.
None in LA.
No comment from San Diego.
Thank you kindly. And vote, please.
Okay, the motion is to approve staff's recommendation to reject the comment made by Kitman, second by Corradino. Agonato,
Yes.
Zamora,
Yes.
Chan,
Yes.
Corradino,
Yes.
Francisco Shea,
Yes.
Jeannie Kane.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, members.
Okay, we're gonna go over now comments received at our June 6, 2016 public hearing. One person provided feedback at the June 6 public hearing in Sacramento, and that was Dr. Stephen Kiven. He had 6 distinct comments as set out below, and this is taken from the minutes of the hearing, which are included as part of the packets. So we'll just review each one and the response suggested. The first comment was Dr. Given had suggested a correction on proposed section CCR proposed CCR section 1399.433 subsection B 1G. Jin, and please correct me if I get the pronunciation wrong, guys. Jin Gui is listed. Dr. Gibbon feels that Yao Lei, which is the full term, should be added to further define it. Staff recommends rejecting this comment, feels that Jin Gui is a significant enough identifier and is consistent with other classical acupuncture references within the section. The full textual name of each technique and modality listed in the proposed language would add additional length to the proposed language.
Any comments from our members?
This is Hildy. I just want to hear from the practitioners whether they agree with it. I don't know anything about Jingui or Yellow.
What's that, Hildy?
She asked if you could comment on that modality.
It's not a modality, it's one of our medical classics. So it's a medical textbook, one of the first, I believe in about 180 AD, by Dr. Zhong Zhongjing. And it is a classical text that is complete title is Jingui Yao Li. But Jingui, I think, covers it. I think that's fine.
Thank you, Doctor.
Do you agree? Okay. All right. I make a motion to reject the comment.
Thank you, Hildy.
Wait, you know what, just real quick though, just remember that it says proposed board response that Jingguo is significant enough. That's not the term. Make sure it's not Jingguo, it's Jingwei. So make sure that term is at least spelled correctly. If it's spelled correctly, then it's understandable. It's Jingui, not O, as it is proposed into the response. You guys see
So
that?
noted.
Yeah.
Okay. As long as it's spelled correctly, it should be understood.
Understood, thank you. We'll make sure to spell it with the GUI spelling,
And this is Jamie, I second the motion.
as it is currently listed. Any other comments? Do we have that second then?
Some more.
Yeah, Jamie, I second.
Thank you, Jamie. Public comment.
Steve Given, CIS, San Francisco. With all due respect to my esteemed colleague, Dr. Corradino, these are not techniques. These are books. And Dr. Corradino is correct, Jingui Yaolui and the Shanghan Lun, which is the full name of the third text, are from the Han Dynasty 2 millennium ago. I do not think it is unduly burdensome in statute to have the full name of texts that are listed. So it would be Jingui Yao Lui. The Wenbing is actually Wenbing Shui, XUE, and that is a group of texts rather than a single text. Shanghan Lun is the full name of the third text, and the fourth text is the Huangdine Jing. And these are all texts held with some reverence by acupuncturists, and I think those are, it would be important in a statute of this nature to have them fully, their full names. If it was a technique, if it was a procedure, something like that, I would agree with Dr. Corradino that it would be burdensome to list every possible technique by its full name. But these are 3 classical texts that all date from the Han Dynasty, and the Wenbing Shui, XUE, is a group of texts that is somewhat younger. And I think that's an important distinction, and I respectfully suggest that they be listed by their correct names. Thank you.
Excuse me, would you repeat again?
Yes.
Yeah, repeat.
The whole thing I just said?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
sorry.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
the
slowly.
slowly, okay. So these are not techniques or procedures, these are classical texts, and they date from the Han Dynasty, which is 206 before the Common Era to 220 after the Common Era. So they're virtually with the exception of the Wenbing Shui, they're about 2 millennia old, and these texts are still being read by acupuncturists today. The first one, the full name is Jingui Yaolue. The second one, Wenbing Shui, Xue, is a group of texts rather than one text. The third text is the Shanghan Lun, Lun, also a Han Dynasty text. And the fourth one is the Huangdi Neijing, Huang, new word Di, new word Nei, Jing. So the 4 characters, or with Shanghan Lun, the 3 characters, they're all characters, they all have meanings. And so this is important. This is part of the history of the medicine. These are texts that inform the syllabi that you will continue to get. So I respectfully suggest that because they are books and not procedures or techniques, that it would be important, and I would continue to support them being correctly annotated in the statute.
I just heard about that one. Only 2 things I know, the Jingui. Jingui maybe is a golden turtle. The second one, Huangdi Ruijing, this is myself a book. This is the book talking about all the Chinese medicine, something like that. That's my understanding. So I would say that for this particular name, we should ask some the expert person to explain, what a real thing come out. Otherwise, people really, you translate direct from the English to, the people don't understand.
Correct. Well, with all due respect,
Yeah.
Francisco, in this connotation, Jingui is not golden turtle.
Okay.
That would have, if you substitute the characters, Jin is gold or metal or precious, and Gui, another character for Gui would be turtle. But in this case, it's
Cabinet.
precious formulas worth their weight in gold. So the Jin here means this is a formula text, as Dr. Corradino noted also by Zhang Zhi. And so in this case, Gui has it's a different character.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So Jingui Yaolue, formulas that are more precious than gold. Shanghan Lun means diseases caused by cold. So the key character Lun is missing. So cold-induced disorders. Huangdi Neijing is the Yellow Emperor's inner classic. So you just say inner classic, but the characters for Huangdi, the yellow thearch or the yellow emperor, needs to be in front of that. And Wenbing Shui means patterns caused by heat. So, anyway.
Okay, I'm looking at page 6 of the implementation of SB 1246. Kelsey, would it take too much effort to change it to the full name that Steve Gibbons is asking for?
No, it could be added.
Okay, because now that I'm looking at text, Jingwei and Wenbing, I changed my mind and agree that we should put it in full name, Jingwei, Yaolue, and Wenbing Shui as Shanghan Lun should be added. And Huangdi Neijing, I think just changing that is not going to change any substantive matters, but I think it is being respectful to the text that we studied.
Listen, this is Dr. Corradino. If it's not a tremendous amount of effort, because I believe they're clear, but I understand what Dr. Stevens his concern is that we should keep it the full name of the text. But if anything, just make sure that the words are spelled correctly, because in here again, Yaolue is spelled incorrectly. So if we do change that, make sure the words are spelled correctly. That's very, very important.
And Kelsey, the other thing is that a lot, this, I tell me if this is off tangent, but these, I'm fully understanding Steve's intent in getting full name to these texts. I could agree with that, and if there's no too much trouble, we can change that. However, I thought the language of Oriental anything was changed to Asian, and everything here is Oriental. I'm just making a comment, we don't have to address it today, I know we need to move on.
Okay, so let's table that comment. We're gonna go over the entire text one more time because there are some proposed changes that staff had that are outside of the comment spectrum. So, but let's focus on this comment. So if I'm understanding correctly, are you putting forth a motion?
Hildy made a motion to approve,
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Hildy made a motion to approve.
to approve staff's rejection of the comments.
Okay,
Someone had seconded.
and Jamie had seconded it.
We wanna vote on that.
Hildy, did you want to amend based on the conversations that have been had?
I mean, we would have to.
Well, you could
I just don't
vote.
know what amended to say, because I'm not familiar with the, is it Jingwei Yale?
I'm changing all of them actually. Jingwei Yale, adding another word to Wenbing Shi, and then Hangan at the end is Lun, and then Hangde adding 2 more words to Meijang.
So, Kelsey,
Yes.
get the correct spelling from Steve Given, who's there with you, correct? And we have to amend the motion, and you will figure out the spelling.
May I make a
Correct.
recommendation? I'm sorry to interrupt, Jeannie.
That's okay.
We are pushing forward for an omnibus bill to update our entire reg sections as it stands in the coming year. I
Oh,
would be hesitant to move forward with, and no offense to Dr. Given, moving forward with making changes to these titles if it's been understood for the last 35 years which text these are referring to. If we can make it a more informed decision, less on the spot, in the next coming year. If the board, as Francisco has suggested, wants to send this to a subject matter expert just so that we have documentation that this is how it's done, or the schools want to send in. I know that in opinion sometimes you can have multiple spellings, or occasionally perhaps. So it's up to you how you want to handle this, but
the omnibus bill that you're talking about, Ben?
Yes.
It's going to be encompassing what? Just briefly.
briefly, it'll be updates to our current,
So this is not really.
oh yeah, it's not the forum for it.
Okay, all right, I understand what you're saying. So then, let's move forward with the motion to reject, on the understanding that there's still opportunities for us to address these specific things in the future. But if we could make a notation in the minutes to assign this out to an appropriate committee to discuss, and whether the committee decides whether it's necessary to retain a subject matter expert to opine on this, we can do that at the committee level.
Certainly, if we need to go
Okay,
that route, we
real quick,
can.
guys, you can, if you want, you could assign that to my committee level, because I could definitely get the correct spells. We do not need to hire any expert people. I'm well qualified to get the correct spelling of those 4 classical texts.
Perfect, thank you, Dr. Cordino, and again, thank you, Dr. Given, for making this more direct. We just want to make sure that we follow the proper protocol. Any other public comments?
Just for my, I'm not the public, but I'm just gonna make a comment. I don't know if it would go under Dr. Cordino's research committee. It looks like it would go under education, but if for some reason Dr. Cordino is on the education committee,
Indeed.
so unless
Yeah.
Dr. Cordino has a compelling case for why it should be in research, not education, I'm inclined to assign it to education.
That will be
So
noted.
whatever- either one committee is fine. I'm on both of them, so I will. And if I'm not on whatever committee it is brought to, you can still use me as a reference, and I can easily gather the correct spellings from my library and send them to you.
Yeah,
Okay,
Dr.
let's keep it under education then, yeah.
So noted.
Michael, Dr.
Yeah, yes,
Michael,
buddy.
I'm very interested to, join you the research committee. Because the translation, my understanding totally different. So that's how very interesting to help.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to have you join us. Francisco, I just think that what's sometimes confusing is reading the opinion versus the kanji. I think that's what Dr. Gibbons was pointing out, that gui, could mean ghost, it could also mean cabinet or other terms, but the character, the kanji itself, is more descriptive and specific to the identity of the word. But yes, I'd love you if you want to join our committee.
Thank you.
Any further public comment? Nothing in Sacramento?
Nothing here.
Dr. Cordino, anybody in San Diego?
No, we're good, thank you.
Thank you. Let's call a vote.
Okay, the motion is by Hildy to approve staff's recommendation to reject the comment with the correct spelling of Jin Gui, G-U-I. The second was made by Jamie, so vote. Algonato,
Yes.
Zamora,
Yes.
Chan,
Yes.
Cordino,
Yes,
Francisco Shea,
No,
no. Jeannie Kang,
Yes.
motion passes 5-1.
Thank you, Mark. Let's move on to the next
Okay.
comment.
Thank you.
Okay, the second comment made by Dr. Gibbon. Dr. Gibbon noted that the clean needle technique manual, as referred to in the proposed CCR section 1399.433B, subsection 2K, is no longer published by the National Acupuncture Foundation. It is now published by the Council of Colleges of Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine, and is distributed free at the website ccaom.org. Staff's recommendation is to agree and accept this comment, and to recommend updating CCR's section 1399.433B2K and CCR section 1399.434B2K as follows. K.
Have a change here, a minor change,
Yeah.
to what is printed in your packets. So it'll say hygiene standards including clean needle techniques. The clean needle technique portion of this subject shall use as its primary reference the Clean Needle Technique Manual, 7th edition, 2015, published by the Council of Colleges of Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine, which is hereby incorporated by reference. So we are taking out the part that says most current edition of the. And the reasoning behind that, just to give you an explanation, since the board is requiring this text, it has to be incorporated by reference. We did receive permission from the Council of Colleges of Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine to incorporate this by reference and to notice it on our website. And so with that, the APA requires that we distinguish which text we want to use, so we have to have an actual publishing date and title. So we can't say words to the effect of the most current edition, because if we want to change which edition we are referencing, we need to do that through the regulation process. So it can't just automatically update. So we have to pick one and stick with it.
so.
Oh, yes, I'm
Kelsey-
sorry. Well, we can do that in the next part.
Okay.
Are we good? I was just gonna ask Kelsey, so you're saying that we cannot update this or change this as the manual may potentially get updated?
We can, but we have to do it through this process, which we are engaged in currently. So it has to
And
go
your
through.
concern is that this may change too quickly?
No. I'm just saying that having the most current edition in the language is not. We can't really go that route. because the statute requires us to actually put one specific, addition into the
Gotcha.
text. So, for instance, there are some boards, who may, want to use a document that's, let's say, 15 years old, and subsequently, whoever has put out that document has made, lots of changes, but they really feel strongly about this document from 15 years ago. They can do that, but they just have to notify which one. So the sort of interesting thing about this is that it's only published online, and so that they do update it, and there's no real way to have a hard copy or a copy of this version once they change it. So I did talk to the Office of Administrative Law to clarify that, and really we just will have staff will have to make themselves apprised of it somehow, that when it changes, we're gonna have to update the regulation.
Okay, and who's gonna, because obviously Dr. Givens was kind enough to have spotted this out for us. If it does change again, is there someone that does oversee this? Is there someone on staff that does look at these things and for changes or for updations?
Dr. Cordino, I've already been communicating with, them, and I will be doing that.
Okay, excellent, Mark. Thank you very much. I trust you.
Dr. Cordino, what we'll also do is we'll have the Acupuncture General mailbox sign up for their newsletter, their stakeholders list, so that it'll be forwarded to whoever is the policy coordinator at that time that they are released. And
Yeah,
they
that
will
should
inform
work.
us then.
I hope it's me too.
Excellent.
Jeez.
Excellent.
Any other comments, questions? All right, do I have a motion? No motion yet.
I'll do it. I just don't have legal here, so I want to make sure the words are correct. So I move to adopt the changes the staff recommended updated to CCR section 1399.433, B2K, and CCR section 1399.434B2K.
Perfect.
With
I
the
second
additional
that.
changes that we discussed.
Yes,
Okay.
including the changes that we just discussed.
Perfect.
Do we have a second?
I second Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie. Public comment? Nothing in Sacramento?
Nothing in San Diego.
Thank you both. We'll go ahead and take a vote.
Okay, the motion is to agree to staff recommendation to accept the comment with the changes as suggested by staff to remove the words current edition of. Cordino makes the motion, Zamora seconds. Aganato?
Yes.
Aganato, yes. Zamora?
Yes.
Chan?
Yes.
Cordino?
Yes.
Francisco Shea?
Yes.
Jeannie Kang? 6-0, motion passes. All right, moving along. Comment number 3 from Dr. Given. There was language Dr. Given believes is outdated. Quote, in subsection H, clinical practice hours, 950 hours, and the statement in subsection 4, thereafter 275 hours, the clinic supervisor shall be physically present at the needling of the patient, end quote. Dr. Given believes, quote, that this is outdated and should be deleted. California is the only state which requires this. Virtually no evidence that is necessary or enhances the training of the intern. He then notes, quote, here is the following sentence, that the clinic supervisor shall be in close proximity and is true for all stages of clinical stages and continues to be true, end quote. Staff recommends rejecting this comment. The intention of this section is for direct line of sight observation and clinical supervision of the student. Needling and the instruction thereof is a precise and sensitive procedure. A supervisor's physical presence assures public protection through the thorough training of the intern. So staff is proposing, in order to better define the presence of a supervisor, the proposed section changes to CCR section 1399.433H subsection 4 and CCR section 1399.434H subsection 4 as follows. The curriculum in clinical practice shall consist of at least 950 hours in clinical instruction, 75% of which shall be in a clinic owned and operated by the school, which includes direct patient contact in the following. Number 1, practice observation, minimum 150 hours, supervised observation of the clinical practice of acupuncture and oriental medicine with case presentations and discussion. Number 2, diagnosis and evaluation, minimum 275 hours, the application of Eastern and Western diagnostic procedures in evaluating patients. 3, supervised practice, minimum 275 hours, the clinical treatment of patients with acupuncture and oriental medicine treatment modalities listed in the Business and Professions Code section 4927D and 4937B. Subsection 4. During the initial 275 hours of diagnosis, evaluation, and clinical practice, the clinic supervisor shall be physically present at all times during the diagnosis and the treatment of the patient. Thereafter, for a second period of 275 hours, the clinic supervisor shall be physically present at the needling of the patient. During the initial 700 hours of clinical instruction, the student shall remain in the direct line of sight of the clinic supervisor at all times when the patient is being diagnosed and or treated. After 700 hours of clinical instruction, the clinic supervisor shall be in close proximity to the location at which the patient is being treated. The student shall also consult with the clinic supervisor before and after each treatment.
I just want to reiterate that we're not changing anything in this section. We are simply clarifying what has been in practice since at least 2005, when this curriculum was last approved. So we are adding some words to this so that it is clear to the schools, and all the schools now, or the training programs, have undergone a compliance visit, and this was made very clear during those visits that this is the case. Now, we may have different standards in the various medical modalities, but this has always been part of the acupuncture board's requirement of training programs. And the board may be willing to consider a different interpretation. I think for the purposes of this regulation, it's just to be able to move forward with a clearer regulation. Thank you. Any comments from the members? Questions?
Language that we're talking about then, is this, can we revisit this during the omnibus bill that you're talking about?
Certainly. I would recommend making it a part of a different regulatory package, because the omnibus would be non-substantial. This might be more conducive to a discussion, a lively discussion among all the programs. So yes, but this is definitely something we can and most likely will take up again in the future.
Yeah, I'm okay with, for now, going with these, just the clarification changes, but this is something that I have heard over and over again, I'm sure you did too.
Indeed.
So this is something that I do want to visit more in detail in committee so we could have a fuller discussion, and I would just like you to make a note of that.
So noted.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comments or questions from the members? Nothing in Sacramento? Okay, do I have a motion on the floor?
This is Hildy. I move to adopt the board response to reject the comment.
So, sorry, just quickly procedurally, if we reject a comment, then we are essentially saying we're not gonna make any changes as a result of it. So this is sort of a separate change that staff has recommended. So I just wanna clarify that for purposes of comments in the final statement of reasons. It'll just be a reject the comment and the reasons why. And then this is a separate change that we're gonna be making.
So the motion would be to reject the comment for the board's reasons, stated reasons,
Approve the language.
And approve the language,
and
yes.
approve the language, okay.
So, the motion is to adopt the adopt the proposed board response to address the comments, but adopt the, language that we discussed.
Yes.
Yes. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Jamie. Public comment?
This is just a quick comment from San Diego.
Thank you.
Just FYI, so everyone understands that the 700 hours that is to be observed is only part of the clinical training for every student. You know, just so that everyone understands that there's an additional, usually 200 or 250 hours, which they will be on their own with the patients.
Thank you for that clarification, Doctor. That is correct.
That's all. Yeah, thank you.
No public comment in Sacramento?
No,
Thank you.
None in San Diego.
Thank you. Call to vote?
Okay, the motion is by Hildy to approve staff's recommendation to reject the comment and to approve the changes in the language as set out. And Zamora is the second. So the votes, Algonado,
Yes.
Zamora,
yes.
Chan,
Yes.
Corradino,
Yes.
Francisco Shea,
Yes.
Jeannie Kang.
Yes.
Thank you, motion passes 6-0.
Excellent.
All right, moving right along. Okay, Dr. Gibbons, number 4 comment, similar to comment number 1 in his letter. Dr. Gibbon notes a statement in the SB 1246 ISR referring to approved training programs seeking ACOM status does not refer to the full text of the statute. Staff is, as we've stated before, recommends agreeing and accepting this comment. The final statement of reasons will reflect the correct language as set out in California BPC section 4927.5, which says as follows: 3, meets any of the following. A, is accredited by the Accreditation Commission for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine. B, has been granted candidacy status by the Accreditation Commission for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine. C, has submitted a letter of intent to pursue accreditation to the Accreditation Commission for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine within 30 days of receiving full institutional approval pursuant to paragraph 2, and is granted candidacy status within 3 years of the date that letter was submitted.
Any member comment? This is as we've reviewed before.
Yeah, nothing in San Diego.
No members in Sacramento.
No comments here in LA. I make a motion to adopt the proposed board response.
Thank you, Hildy.
I second, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie. Public comment? Nothing in Sacramento?
Nothing in Diego.
Okay, the motion is by Hildy to approve staff's recommendation to accept the comment and make the changes to the final statement of reasons. Jamie seconds the vote. Algonado,
Yes.
Zamora,
Yes.
Chan,
Yes.
Corradino,
Yes.
Francisco Shea,
Yes.
Jeannie Kang.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Okay. Number 5. Dr. Given feels that, quote, the board should have complete authority first 30 days as per SB 1246, but thereafter review of curriculum needs to be ended as far as CAB is concerned, end quote. He states, quote, that under the accreditation process, schools are constantly improving and changing curriculum, and if an institution were required to go back to CAB for every time they made an improvement to their curriculum, institutions would have a disincentive to continue to improve their curriculum as is required by accreditation, and believes that CAB would be inundated with minor changes, when in fact it is not necessary for CAB to approve that. He then said that a past CAB president made the statement at a past CAB meeting that this may include an ongoing review of all curriculum. It is very important for CAB to know that the review needs to be ended after the 30-day period. CAB will continue to have the opportunity to review transcripts to make sure they comply with California law, and that should be considered follow-up review as needed. Staff's recommendation is to reject the comments in order to protect the public and to ensure California standards apply to all acupuncture training programs. It is necessary to require approved training programs to submit changes to their coursework as defined and above to the board.
This ties into a comment made earlier by Dr. Given, and a similar discussion ensued. Also keep in mind that the curriculum that the board approves is then reported to the board on a training program's curriculum requirement form, which allows the board to review if a student is qualified. So not only are we doing the front end check on a curriculum at CAB, but we're doing the last check when an applicant for the licensing exam sends in their application to make sure that the school is telling us they took these courses to meet these requirements. So technically, there is an ongoing review just in then. Now, there may not be an ongoing review like after that 30 days because we've made a decision come 2017. But the board will be looking at the curriculum requirement form. If there's any inconsistencies that have not been addressed by a training program between the curriculum application and the curriculum requirement form, then that will instigate a review right there. So the board's staff is recommending to reject this comment.
I move to adopt the proposed board response.
Thank you, Hildy.
I'll second Jim.
Thank you, Jim. Public comment? Nothing in Sacramento.
Nothing in LA.
San Diego?
Is San Diego still with us? Dr. Cordino?
Yes, San Diego's good.
Thank you. Let's move to vote.
Okay, the motion is by Hildy to adopt staff's recommendation to reject the comments. Second by Jamie. The vote. Alganado?
Yes.
Zamora?
Yes.
Chan?
Yes.
Cordino?
Yes.
Francisco Shea?
Yes,
Jeannie Kang?
Yes.
6-0. Motion passes. Okay. And the final comment from Dr. Given. Number 6. Dr. Given notes a statement made in documents forwarded to me that licensed acupuncturists continue to meet the same training and clinical experience standards. More in the spirit of education under accreditation should meet or exceed those standards, end quote. He feels, begin quote, it is in fact not appropriate for a board to say that everybody must meet the same standards. We should be able to meet or exceed those standards according to review of faculty and the academic leadership of the individual institution. That is in fact what is happening now. Institutions do have an opportunity to exceed these standards as they see fit. I believe we covered this before. Staff's proposed response is to reject the comment. The board is setting minimum standards for a true training program curriculum, not making the program exceed the standards as proposed. Exceeding these standards remains at the program's discretion.
Any member comments or questions? A motion?
Nothing from Diego.
Thank you, Dr. Cordino.
Recommended rejection by staff.
Okay, so that was a motion from Jamie. Do you want a second?
I'm a second.
Kipman seconds. Public comment?
None from San Diego.
Thank you, Dr. Cordino. Nothing in Sacramento? Sounds like nothing in LA. Let's go ahead to a vote.
Okay, the motion is by Jamie to approve staff's recommendation to reject the comment. Second by Kipman Shan. The vote, Alganato,
Yes.
Zamora, Chan,
Yes.
Corradino,
Yes.
Francisco Shea,
Yes.
Jeannie Kane.
Yes.
Okay, 6-0, motion passes.
And now for the other changes to the text that Kelsey was mentioning.
So we made, staff went through and made a few changes to the text, just on, upon further review. The first one is on the very first page of 1399433, and this is for educational training, outside of the United States, and it added, clinical experience, is that right? It added clinical experience. So, and I apologize that that was not highlighted in your materials, but that is one of the additions that staff has made. And the reasoning for that is that the statute requires that educational training outside of the United States is in conformity with two statutes, one which talks about training, the other discusses clinical experience. For that reason, we needed to put clinical experience into the regulation.
Want me to motion to approve?
Well, why don't we go through all of it, because we do need to also approve the language, and then we will also need to do some delegation to the executive officer and the staff to do something. So let's hold off on that if you don't mind. Yeah, we already did that one. Okay, so then the next comes afterwards. It's double underlined. And it says, to be approved by the board, an acupuncture and oriental medicine educational and training curriculum shall consist of at least 2,050 hours of didactic and laboratory training and at least 950 hours of supervised clinical instruction. The curriculum shall include the following coursework, which contains the following criteria.
That
And
contains the following.
that contains the following criteria. And that part that we just added at the end, you guys have already voted for it. But the reason we made this change is that we really wanted to mirror exactly what was in 1399434. So we wanted to make sure that they were the same because education received outside the United States has to meet the same standards as inside the United States. So we wanted to make that abundantly clear by having the language mirror it exactly, and it did not do so prior to this change. Okay, so moving on to the next page, we discussed the clean needle incorporation by reference in subsection 2. So you've already voted on that. Moving on. Oh, I apologize. You're right, Mark. So we took out in that one, so subsection K, hygienic standards including clean needle techniques. The clean needle technique portion of the subject shall use, and it says as its primary reference. And Mark and I were discussing this morning and are suggesting that we remove as its primary reference because that leaves the statute a little bit vague in terms of, well, some schools may use it 20% of the time, some schools may say 45. It really is left up to them. So we're just suggesting that they use it and not as a primary reference. And if they wanted to have other above and beyond the minimum standards, they could do so, but that's not really in our purview. So that's why we have suggested to take out primary reference. And then we don't have anything until page 5,
Clinical practice.
under subsection H for clinical practice. We have removed where appropriate. Again, going back to what we kind of just discussed, that leaves the language up to interpretation. So because it is pretty descriptive, I don't think that that language needs to be there. And then we did add, during the initial 700 hours of clinical instruction, the student shall remain in the direct line of sight, which you've already voted on as well. We added the authority and reference sections of the Business and Professions Code. This is what gives you the authority to promulgate regulations And it also, the reference lets the reader know which statutes you're interpreting, making more specific, or implementing. And that is a requirement of the Office of Administrative Law under the Administrative Procedure Act. So we added that because it does need to be noticed with the text. So for your FYI. And then we've discussed 434, that intro paragraph with the following coursework that contains the following criteria. You've already voted on that. So moving along again to page 7, and this is the same as in 433, where we took out in subsection K as its primary reference. Then under, no more here. Was that already there? Let me see. Sorry.
Subsection
C, was that already changed? Yes, okay, my apologies. So that was already changed, so then it's on to,
H.
page 9. Under H, again, this is the direct line of sight issue. You've already voted on that.
Page 9.
And then also taking out the where appropriate in the first part of that. Oh, okay. Yeah, so and then we'll be adding double underline and all of that to the proposed rulemaking. And again, on the next page, page 10, we've added the authority cited and the reference sections. And then page 14, we have changed the revision date of the form for the application for board approval of curriculum to better reflect when it was actually created.
Yeah. Can't be created in the future.
And then, so we added, under subsection 5, we added all information and documentation submitted under this section shall be in English. Just to clarify, because originally it just said all documentation, but there is information that will be provided on the application, so we wanted to make that abundantly clear that when you fill out the application, it also needs to be in English. Under subsection B, an application for board approval or curriculum shall be deemed received and complete pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 4927.5B when the board has received a complete application, including the form and all information and documentation as defined in subdivision A of this regulation. So we added and complete because subsection A discusses because the 30 days starts when the statute says that the board has 30 days from receiving a complete application, so we wanted to spell out what a complete application was. And then we added including the form and all information and documentation because it requires more than just the application form. So we wanted to make sure that it was abundantly clear that it's the application and everything that goes with it. In subsection C, we added the reasons the application is incomplete, including instructions for how to address the incomplete application. And originally,
Required documents
it said required documents. And we changed that because it could be the situation where something on the application wasn't right or some sort of information, not necessarily a document wasn't needed. So it may be that the form needed, or we needed additional information, so we wanted to make that clear. And a complete application, we added a complete application to the board within 30 days to then, again, reiterate that it has to be complete. In subsection E, we took out curriculum and added coursework, which you've already voted on. And we've discussed this one and decided to keep the rest the same. And then we added the authority cited and the reference sections. So those are all the changes, and if you look back to the memo that Mark wrote for you, there is a suggested motion, because what happens next is that we have to put the the board has to put out the changes in the text for a 15-day comment period of the modified text. And to do that, they need to delegate to the executive officer that ability. And then, if the board does not receive any comments during this 15-day modified text, what can happen is that the board can also delegate again to the executive officer to complete the final rulemaking. However, if the board does receive comments, it is statutorily required that they reconvene and discuss those comments. So I have a suggested motion on the second page of Mark's memo to you, which would encompass all of the changes that I had just discussed, as well as the delegation. And that's all from me, so if anyone would like to make that motion or a similar motion.
Sure, I'll make a motion. I move to amend the proposed language as staff has recommended to approve the modified text for a 15-day comment period and delegate the executive officer, if there are no comments received during the public comment period, the authority to make technical, non-substantive changes and necessary in completing the rulemaking file.
It's totally a second.
Any public comments?
None from San Diego.
None in LA.
None in Sacramento. Let's take a vote.
Okay, the motion is made by Jamie, who moves to amend the proposed language as staff has recommended to approve the modified text for a 15-day comment period and delegate to the executive officer, if there are no comments received during the public comment period, the authority to make technical, non-substantive changes as necessary in completing the rulemaking file. Second by Hildy. The vote, Alganato,
Yes.
Zamora,
Yes.
Chan,
Yeah.
Corradino,
Yes.
Francisco Shea,
Yes,
Jeannie Kang. Jeannie Kang.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeannie. 6-0, motion passes. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, members. Are we good to proceed to agenda item 6? I hear no
Yes,
dissent.
please.
You don't want?
Okay.
Yes, let's go ahead and move forward to number 6. I just wanted to thank Mark and Kelsey again for their exceptional work. We just went through a lot of stuff. So thank you guys and to everybody for putting so much work into this. We're moving along very well.
Thank you, Hildy.
Thanks, Hildy. It's been a lot of back and forth, but we're gonna, it's good. We're finally getting ready to get it into reg.
Indeed.
Yeah, I think we've been waiting for this moment for a long time, so I'm glad that we're moving forward with it.
Yes.
Let's go ahead with number 6.
Okay, for item 6, I'm gonna hand it over to Kelsey, and she could better explain the research that's been done on the 801 medical malpractice form. Thank you, Kelsey.
Thanks. So, Business and Profession Code 801 allows for several boards, healing arts boards and acupuncture board, to require information about malpractice lawsuits and arbitration awards over the amount of $3,000 to be reported to the board. And there are some other statutes, subsequent statutes that state exactly what needs to be in the form, what exactly information the board needs to have on file. And in looking at the regulation language in the form, I noticed that under in 804, Business and Professions Code 804, it allows for the board to create by regulation a form, but says that essentially if the board does not require it, that it need not do it through the regulation process. So I went and asked for a little bit of institutional knowledge in my office and found that most boards had decided to just have a form that they did not require, but it just made for ease for the person making the report, for the entity making the report, to use the form because it did require all of the information that 804 spells out. The other part of that is that if you have everything in a form that is already prescribed by statute, which it is in 804, you don't need to go through the regulation process either if it's just putting all of that information and slapping it on a form. So that's what we have here. So there, in discussing with Ben, we decided to not go forward with a rulemaking package, but rather just to have this form that the board would have for convenience, but not require.
We also wanted to, or I was looking to be more in line with the other healing arts boards. If the board does feel that it is beneficial for CAB to go through and put this in the regulation, we definitely can consider it. But I do know we have a lot on our table right now. Any comments or questions from the members? Nothing in
None from
Sacramento?
San Diego.
Thank you, Doctor. Since this doesn't require any motion, we don't have to go to public comment, do we? We should? Okay, open to public comment. Nothing in Sacramento?
Nothing from San Diego.
Thank you,
Nothing
Doc.
from LA.
Okay. Fantastic. Moving on to item 7. This is a legislative update on AB 2190, the board's sunrise legislation. And I'll have Mark take the helm on this one.
Okay, members, this is just a pretty quick update. The bill has worked its way through the legislature and is at what's called engrossing and enrolling. It's basically the final step that the legislature takes to review all of the language and amendments to make sure everything is correct, legal-wise, et cetera, et cetera. It is then sent to the governor for his signature. The governor has until the end of September to sign or veto bills. It is expected that he will approve the bill, at least that's our hope, but we haven't gotten any indications that this wouldn't happen. We've been working very closely with the legislature, and we're really, really grateful to the legislature, at least staff is, for their constant, they've been in very close touch with us on the amendments to this bill, so we've had a very good and collaborative process with them. So beyond that, if there's any questions, we can entertain them, but it looks like our bill is going to hopefully be signed into law very soon, hopefully.
And just to be clear, this will give us 2 more years to be sunrisen.
Right.
2 more years for what?
We'll be sunrisen for 2 years, so we'll have 2 more years before they come back to review us, the legislature, and the committee comes back to review the board.
Got it. Okay.
Any comments or questions from board members in Sacramento? Nothing here?
Nothing in San Diego.
Nothing in LA.
Right, and just as an FYI, our board did take a support position on the bill, which the legislature has noted.
Okay.
Right, any public comment? Nothing in Sacramento?
Nothing in Diego.
Nothing in LA.
Excellent, thank you, members. Item number 9 on the agenda,
Yeah, it's number 9. So, admin manual.
is the admin manual for the board. What we're doing here is simply bringing the changes with the shift in the board members and the executive officer. And we also wanted to, since the last time the board approved this, I believe this was in September,
Yeah, I think so.
the motion did not allow for the EO to have authority to make non-substantive changes like these. So we're showing you the changes that we want to make and also requesting that you award the EO the ability to make such non-substantive changes in the future, so we do not have to bring this to your attention all the time. Any questions or comments from the members?
None in LA.
Thank you, LA.
Just actually, I take that back. I don't know if it's as a matter of procedure, but do we have to say to move this agenda item up a little bit so that we can do agenda item number 8 later, or shall we just keep going?
Did I skip an agenda item? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, closed session. Closed
Okay.
session.
So Hildy, that's your call if you want to do it in order or if you'd like to take it out of order.
I mean, we're already doing it, so we might as well do it in order, and we can't start, due to logistical issues, we can't do number 8 until 1:30 anyways. So I think if there were any other items under open session that we could theoretically address, I'd rather do it now, because we can't do number 8 until 1:30. So let's keep going.
Okay. So then, do we have a motion on the table for the admin manual changes?
I'll make the motion to adopt the changes in the packet and to direct the CEO to make non-substantive changes.
Thank you, Hildy. Do we have a second?
Second, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie. Public comment? Public comment? Nothing in Sacramento?
Nothing in San Diego.
Nothing in LA.
Thank you. Let's vote.
Okay, the motion is by Hildy to approve the changes as laid out in the board packet and to delegate to the EO the ability or the authority to make non-substantive changes. The second is by Jamie. The vote, Argonato,
Yes.
Zamora,
Yes.
Chan,
Yes.
Corradino,
Yes.
Francisco Shea,
Yes?
Jeannie Kane.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, members. Next item that we can go to would be future.
Public item comment for items on the agenda.
I think we can do it next time. Apologies for the delay. Yeah, let's do public comment for items not on the agenda. Nothing in Sacramento?
Nothing in LA.
Nothing in San Diego.
Thank you, members. That resolves item 10. Item 11, future agenda items from board members.
In the June meeting, Kelsey, in section 6, sale of needles regulated by the Board of Pharmacy, I requested that you look into this situation regarding the pharmacy board regulating the sale of needles, and you said you would research that and report back to the board, and I just wanted to make sure in the next that we follow up on that.
Yes, so.
I'm on it, Jeannie. Thank you very much. I've already contacted the Board of Pharmacy, spoke to many organizations and people throughout California and the nation. So I will definitely draw up and prepare some information for our June, or for our next meeting.
Yeah, and so I do recall, and actually, Jeannie, Mark wanted to take on that task. And so we are planning to address it at the September board meeting.
Great, thank you.
So Dr. Corradino, would you be kind enough to send me some of the information you've compiled, and I can include that in my briefing?
So why don't we talk about that more, because I wasn't aware that you were the one that was going to be presenting that information. I thought that fell under the research committee, which, since I'm the chair, I thought I'd be presenting that, but if you're going to be presenting it, then we definitely need to talk.
What I'm gonna do is just I'm gonna provide a basic history. Jeannie had asked for a history.
So we'll
a
you
history
guys
of
can
needle
talk
sales.
offline about this, since we haven't really, it's not
Okay.
on the agenda. But we will be on the agenda for the September meeting.
Great, thank you.
We'll get that
No, I
sorted.
get that, Kelsey, but Mark, just, for you, so contact me and we'll discuss that, okay?
We will talk for sure. Thank you.
Any other future agenda items?
Nothing here in LA.
Thank you, Hildy. Dr. Cordina?
For future items, there was a public member that requested that for the future items, specifically for the next board meeting, because it's kind of time sensitive, is to review the new degree that is coming out, I believe, early next year, and I believe certain schools already have these in play, is the new doctoral entry-level degree. And that is not stated that that is a qualification to take the California exam, so that was something that was asked, if that could be put on the agenda, since next year, that will be a topic and a definitely consideration.
Doctor, to clarify, are you talking about the first professional doctorate degree?
Yes, yeah, the first professional doctorate, I believe the first one is actually graduating early next year, and due to that, time sensitive, that they're gonna have that degree issued, it's not in the, on the actual exam requirements on the California.gov website, and that should be a topic that we need to discuss, since that's gonna be definitely a future consideration.
And do you feel this rises to the level of a full board meeting or to the education committee?
I think, we could either reallocate that topic to discuss and get information to the education committee, but I think that the public and us and also the colleges are gonna need some answers to that probably quickly. I'm surprised it hasn't been brought to our attention any sooner, but that degree actually is gonna be issued early next year. So that's gonna be already students that are gonna be looking to take the Cal exam probably next year that don't have an MSTOM or MTOM, they're gonna have that new doctorate degree, and that's not put on the website as an exam requirement, or at least a credential that's allowed. So I don't know how you wanna word that, but I think that might be something that should be visited quickly, either by an education committee for all of us to discuss and then bring that to the board. But it probably should be brought up in the board, I'd say this year. So either the next meeting or the following meeting, but it's definitely time sensitive.
So noted. I'll bring a item on it at the next board meeting.
Thank you. And again, I'm sorry, where is the agenda for the 21st meeting? Is that in this handout?
The agenda for the 21st has not been finalized yet, so we will
Okay.
send that out once it is.
Okay, so if it is, once it is finalized, if it's put out, is there something we can add, change it? I know there is a timeline, it's 10 days prior to the board meeting, and I just want to make sure that those future agendas that we've all been discussing, the needles, the credentialing we discussed, and I think dry needling was also something that I know I'm looking into as a research group, but, that'll be the agenda we can obviously look over, and then comment for any changes, I think 10 days prior to the meeting, is that correct?
Correct. The agenda has to be posted 10 days before the meeting. However, the dry needling was an issue that I believe was directed to the research committee, so the research committee would have to present that information.
They'll have to meet.
They'll have to meet to,
put it on their agenda.
yeah.
Okay, so just for clarity, because this is new to me, and I'm chair of that committee, whenever there is a topic that gets sent to be brought up to the board through that committee, the committee must meet in its entirety to discuss the matter, and then bring it up to the board to be put on the agenda?
So the committee will have to put it on their agenda, and then it'll be reflected in the full board agenda when the committee makes their report or recommendations to the full board.
Okay, so last meeting, that was brought to my attention, I'm the chair of that board, of that committee. So I need to contact everyone on that committee and bring this information together and then talk about it and then,
So you'll have to
Bring it
have,
to the
you'll have
board?
to have a publicly noticed meeting. We
Okay.
can talk about this offline, because we're getting a little bit off topic. So, I'll email you, Dr. Cordino, and let you know the process for it.
awesome, thank you so much. President.
Thank you, Doctor. Any other future agenda items? Board members? Nothing in SAC?
Nothing in LA.
Okay, it is presently 1:09. Hildy, you mentioned we need to be on until 1:30. Would you like to take a break until 1:25?
I think that's the right way to go. Let's do that.
Okay.
And then just for clarification, when we do come back and go into closed session, in San Diego and LA, no public members will be able to be present in the room for that closed session.
Okay, when does that begin?
That'll begin, I think, at 1:25, 1:30-ish.
Okay, okay, good, okay.
And is this bridge staying
Yeah,
open
come
or
back.
just dial back in?
Say again?
Is the bridge staying open or do we need to dial back in?
The bridge will stay open.
Okay, all right.
And we're taking a 20-minute break for the purpose of what?
To await for staff that would help the discussion during closed session.
Okay, 20 minutes though?
That will be at 1:30, yes. They are scheduled to arrive at 1:30.
Oh, gotcha, okay. So we're waiting for people to attend, okay.
Correct.
All right. Okay,
All
so.
right, everyone, we'll see you back at 1:25. Members, public, sorry.
Thank you.
San Diego, Dr. Corradino, are you present?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. In Los Angeles, do we have Hildy Aguinaldo?
Present at the LA location.
Thank you. Jamie Zamora?
Uh,
Thank you. Jeannie Kang?
Same location.
Thank you. Kipman Chan? Thank you, Kipman. And Francisco Xie?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. We have quorum. We will now entertain item 8 and go into closed session. And we will be coming back to open session afterwards to adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.